Welcome everyone to today's Masterclass Explainer. Go ahead and grab your notebooks, take a seat, and get comfortable because today we're going to completely demystify one of the absolute trickiest concepts in the English language. I'm talking about the concept of mood. Honestly, whether you're analyzing a Shakespearean tragedy or just trying to perfect a formal essay, this single word trips up more students than almost anything else. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's a quick look at our syllabus for today. We'll start with the Great Confusion, then move into grammatical moods, do a rapid sentence rewriting workshop, shift over to literary mood, see those literary moods in action, and finally wrap things up with the final grammar exam. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Great Confusion between grammar and literature. So, if you've ever felt completely, utterly lost when your grammar teacher talks about mood, and then your literature teacher talks about mood the very next period, you are not alone. And this right here perfectly illustrates why. You see, these two concepts share a name, but they are entirely different beasts. In English grammar, mood dictates the intended purpose of a sentence. It's the mechanical intent or the reality of the action. It has absolutely nothing to do with your feelings. Literary mood, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. It dictates the overall emotional atmosphere of a piece of writing. Basically, grammatical verb moods never, ever map directly to human emotions. If you just keep this visual contrast in your head, you will avoid the single biggest mistake students make in English class. Okay, with that myth totally busted, let's move to Section 2, grammatical moods and the speaker's intent. Now, what's really interesting about this is how cleanly it organizes the 4 primary verb moods we use to show our underlying attitude toward an action. Take a look at the breakdown. The indicative mood is all about facts, reality, and straightforward questions. When you say, Heathrow is the busiest airport, you're simply asserting reality. But drop down to the imperative row. Now, this is the mood of force and commands. Shut that door. You aren't stating a fact anymore. You are forcing an action. Then we have the subjunctive mood. This is the realm of the imaginary, the hypothetical, the wished for. Think, I wish I had a bigger apartment. And finally, the infinitive mood is a bit unique. It uses to plus the base verb, like to eat. And instead of anchoring an action in time, it actually acts a lot more like a noun, adjective, or adverb. Let me give you a really quick pro tip that will instantly elevate your formal writing. When you're writing in the subjunctive mood to express an unreal or imaginary condition, you literally must use were instead of was, even if you're using I, he, she, or it. So for example, if I were rich, I would buy a sports car. It definitely sounds a little formal to our modern ears, but honestly, mastering this rule shows your teachers and professors that you've got a seriously firm grip on advanced grammar mechanics. Next up, Section 3, Sentence Rewriting Workshop. Let's dynamically see how changing intent works in practice. Imagine you're peer reviewing an essay, right? And you notice the writing flow is just incredibly aggressive. Step 1 here shows a classic, incredibly harsh imperative command. Shut that door. It is super forceful. But what if we want to manipulate our verb choices to kind of soften the blow and create a much more polite tone? Step 2 shows that exact transformation. By shifting the mechanics to the subjunctive mood, we create a hypothetical suggestion. I wish you would shut that door. We actually haven't changed the ultimate goal. We still want the door closed, obviously. But by changing the grammatical mood, we've entirely shifted the speaker's intent from a direct barking order to a polite desire. Okay, you can put your grammar textbooks away for a second. Let's pivot to Section 4, literary mood and emotional atmosphere. Before we look at actual examples, we need to clear up one more terminology trap. So the crucial point here is understanding the difference between tone and mood. Tone is the author's attitude toward the subject. Maybe they're being sarcastic or highly critical or funny. But literary mood is the actual atmosphere that evokes feelings within you, the reader. Basically, if tone is how the author feels, mood is how the author makes you feel. So how does an author magically make you feel afraid or joyful or melancholic just by using ink on a page? Well, it's like a giant puzzle. They mix together very specific ingredients. Setting is a massive factor. A bright sunny beach feels completely different from a haunted house at midnight, right? Then there's imagery, the vivid physical descriptions of the world. Diction is absolutely crucial. It's the specific word choice. A silent night creates a really calm mood, whereas a dull, uneventful night creates a much gloomier one. And finally, the author's tone contributes to the overall recipe. Let's move into Section 5, Literary Moods in Action, and check out some real examples. Just listen to the opening of Shakespeare's Hamlet for a second. The setting is the dead of night. The imagery is a ghost walking the castle grounds, and the dialogue is incredibly urgent. It harrows me with fear and wonder. The guards are demanding the ghost to speak, speak. Notice how the dark setting and that frantic, urgent diction instantly establish this heavy, oppressive mood of fear, dread, and suspense. You practically feel the cold night air and the panic of those guards right alongside them. Now, let's radically shift gears. Take a look at this excerpt from Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Alice peeps over a mushroom and sees a giant caterpillar, just quietly smoking a long hookah and taking not the smallest notice of her. The imagery here is completely fantastical and absurd, yet the diction treats it as totally 100% normal. This combination creates a delightfully whimsical, childlike, and deeply curious mood. You aren't scared of this giant bug. Instead, you're filled with the same innocent wonderment as Alice. Finally, let's look at Tennyson's famous poem, Ulysses. It little profits that an idle king, by this still hearth among these barren crags, the speaker here is an aging hero, and wow, the mood hits you immediately. It's profoundly gloomy, melancholic, and reflective. How does Tennyson do it so fast? Diction and setting. He uses words like idle, still hearth, and barren crags. He doesn't just come out and say, I am sad. He paints this barren, lifeless landscape that actively forces you, the reader, to feel the deep, quiet sorrow of growing old. All right, class, shake out the cobwebs. It is time for Section 6, the final grammar exam. Let's see how much you retained. Question number 1 coming your way. Which grammatical mood expresses an unreal condition, a hypothetical, or a wish, like the sentence, I wish it would stop raining? Think about it for a second. It's the subjunctive mood. Fantastic job if you got that right. It is entirely the realm of what might be, not what actually is. Okay, next question. Look at this sentence. Read the first chapter in the book. Who is the grammatical subject of this sentence? Yup, it's a trick question. Because this is a forceful imperative command, the subject is actually an implied you. Even though the word you isn't physically written on the page, the mechanical intent is directed squarely at whoever the speaker is talking to. Question 3. What mood is represented by the phrase to eat in the sentence, it's important to eat well? This one is the infinitive mood. Remember, by throwing that to in front of the base verb, it literally stops acting like an action anchored in past, present, or future time and starts acting a lot more like a noun or an adjective expressing a general state of being. And here is our final test question. True or false, grammatical verb moods map directly to specific human emotions. False. Definitively, absolutely, no way false. Remember that great confusion we solved at the very start of class? Grammatical moods strictly reflect a speaker's mechanical intent and reality. It's the literary mood that actually dictates the emotional atmosphere of a story. Keep those two concepts totally separate in your head, and you will always be on the right track. Which brings us to the very end of our masterclass explainer today, but I do want to leave you with a question to ponder before your next big writing assignment. Now that you actually understand the underlying mechanics of the indicative, imperative, subjunctive, and infinitive, and now that you know exactly how setting and diction build rich emotional atmospheres, how are you going to actively manipulate these tools? How will you use them to control the exact intent of your sentences and the feelings of your readers in your next formal essay? The power is now entirely in your hands. Use it wisely, keep practicing those verbs, and I will see you in the next explainer.